This is a Hoover Elite 300 I picked up last week from a thrift store for $5. Normally, I'm not really keen on picking up Hoover Elites. They are still relatively common because Hoover made millions and millions and millions of them and sold millions and millions and millions of them. However, this vacuum was made in March 1988, so basically that means this is a very, very early Elite. And in some ways it's different from later style Elites. The hood style is a little bit different. It's more squared off at the edges, and it mimics very much so something like that of like a Hoover Innovation. It's also blue, which I'm a sucker for blue vacuums. And the motor design is actually slightly different from the later model Elites. And I can't remember exactly what the bearing is or what specifically the motor difference is, but I do recall a collector telling me that the early Elites used some sort of a motor component, maybe bearing or something else, that was similar to what the Concept 1s and 2s used. So it actually has a slightly different sound than the later model Elites do. And in all fairness, yes, this was a very, very cheap vacuum new, but they are lightweight, extremely lightweight. They definitely get the carpet clean. And they're very simple to take apart. So the only issue with the machine is that the right motor housing bracket is deteriorated and no longer holds the right side of the motor housing in place. So I'm going to have to get a bracket from a friend of mine. I'm pretty sure he should have one. Now, I could be wrong. The size of the bracket might be different on the later Elites. It almost looks bigger on this machine, but I could be wrong. So I guess we'll have to investigate. But for $5, it wasn't that big of a risk, and I still like the design of this machine. It's simple, no tools. Why you would ever use a Hoover Elite for tool mode is beyond me if you have other vacuums. This isn't the lowest model Elite because it does have a height adjustment. The lowest level Elite did not have a height adjustment, so I'm gonna guess it's probably one step up from the Elite 200. I think the 200 was the lowest end one. There may have been another one below that. I could be wrong. And I have upgraded it to use a HEPA bag, so the filtration is closer to what a modern vacuum has, although this vacuum still is not sealed by any means. Being a direct air vacuum, it does clean well, which I already did mention. And other than that bracket being broken, it's held up pretty well for a 33-year-old vacuum, almost a 34-year-old vacuum now. This vacuum, from what I understand, was meant to replace the convertible, such as like that one over there. But it was a pretty slow transition because this came out around 87, 88, and they didn't actually discontinue the convertible for the consumer market completely until 1992 with the convertible RS. So this was hailed as a cheap vacuum by a lot of people when it came out, but for one reason or another, these things still pop up here and again for whatever reason. So I guess they weren't made as bad as a lot of people thought they were, for how cheap they were. So without further ado, I will give it a quick run. The cord is pretty short. It's probably only about 20 feet long. I gotta be really careful with it because with that bracket being broken, I don't want to disturb it too much. And now, let me get this cord off. You can hear the creaking of the plastic. It's almost a miracle that this vacuum is, for the most part, still intact. there's no way Hoover ever would have imagined these vacuums to still be around so many years after being built. So let's get this plugged in. And I'm not going to run it very long because it is awfully loud and it is getting a little late in the night. But for the most part, it sounds just like an Elite. And I did put a brand new belt on it too. So that is the Hoover Elite 300. The motor probably could use a servicing. As you can hear, it's not the worst Elite. It's not the best Elite I've ever used. It has a little bit of trouble cleaning this carpet because it only has 2 height settings, and frise didn't really exist for the most part in 1988. But it's kind of a neat piece to have for $5. You couldn't really go wrong. So I hope you enjoyed the video of this Hoover Elite from 1988.